What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of LaLiga Insiders, the last one before we go into the pause for some, not so much a pause for others, but the World Cup is right around the corner. Gemma Soler and Rodrigo Faiz. I'm Christina Alexander. Here's the menu of the day, so y'all will stick around with us for a little bit. Real Madrid defeats Cádiz at home. And Barcelona leaders of La Liga, and a little bit more on the way. What's new with our insiders? The big question of the day, and of course, some extra time and some questions around Luis Enrique. So let's get right to it. So the reality is that Barcelona will go into this World Cup pause being leaders of La Liga here with 37 points versus 35, which we see from Real Madrid, and that painful reality, we could say, for Carlo Ancelotti and company. Rodrigo, we know that you told us a few weeks ago that the plan was to maintain the undefeated status going into this pause for the World Cup. What do you think about what the table looks like now?
Well, I think it's fair for Barcelona to be the leaders of this Primera División, of this La Liga, because they've played a little bit better in these past 2 weeks. And I think I have the sensation, the feeling that Real Madrid didn't take it so serious in the past 15 days. Because, when I was last night at Santiago Bernabeu, we had this feeling, talking to the fans and supporters, that Real Madrid players were like more focused on not get injured before the World Cup in Qatar 2022, rather than play and keep at the same level than they were before the FIFA break at Real Madrid. After saying that, I think Barcelona did it right in the right way. So that's why, Real Madrid, and if you sum up with some injuries, talking about Benzema and some players like this, I mean, they didn't do it well, and that's why Ancelotti is focused right after the World Cup to get back to that level in which Real Madrid was playing before that FIFA break, which for me is like the key point of this La Liga beginning for the Blancos. Because after that, it's not the same Real Madrid that we saw at the beginning of this year. So that's why they're all, now focused on the World Cup. This is something good for the players, not that good for Real Madrid in a very hard game in which they prove that there is no easy rival in La Liga, because Cádiz made a great effort and they were about to get a draw against Real Madrid. And I think Real Madrid in the first half they did it really well, but in the second half they disappeared a little bit, and when they had to score, and I'm talking about that chance that Madrid had, they were about to score that 3-0, and then in the next play they were 2-1 after that fail of Courtois and the rest of defense. So God bless Real Madrid that the World Cup is now, because if not they will struggle a little bit more.
Do you agree with this, Gemma, that they would maybe struggle a little bit more if the World Cup wasn't coming up?
Yes, I think they needed the break because they started the season really strong with a lot of physicality. It almost looked like the holidays, the summer break didn't happen. They were at the very high level the way they ended last season, winning the Champions League and Super Cup. So I think at the end it was two things. One of the fitness of the players. The level, I think it was decreasing a little bit, and I'm not sure if it's motivation or thinking too much on the World Cup, or both together made that this Real Madrid in the last couple of weeks they were not that much reliable. I think they proved that they are not a machine. They are humans. They make mistakes. They were missing Benzema so much, even though they have great strikers. They have Rodrigo, but he's doing it very well, but he's not a number 9 and he cannot play as well as Benzema. And in the defense, I think I'm a little bit surprised that they were, in my opinion, more reliable last season, that we were expecting probably a lower level, taking into account that the two center defenders who were always starting the previous season, Ramos and Varane, were gone. Last year it was a very tough team in defense, and this year with the addition of Rudiger, maybe they are struggling a little bit. I'm talking a little, and I don't think 2 points is a big difference for Real Madrid. Yeah, everyone wants to be in leading, of course, but it's just 2 points. If you think on the goal average, it's only 1 point, so it's not that much important for Real Madrid, that difference. And I think it was important for them to went back to winning ways, as they managed to do in this tough, complicated game against Cádiz, where Vinicius, once again, he was absolutely in every battle in the field and outside the field.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. It's not necessarily time to sound the alarm for Real Madrid, right? Because just as quickly as we saw the table change, Barcelona being leaders, and that 2-point difference now with Real Madrid, it could certainly switch back. There's a lot of season still left. Let's check out what Carlo Ancelotti had to say about this result. It's good to stop now. There's nothing else to do. We've suffered at the end a little bit, but we've compiled, and now we rest. We have 35 points in La Liga, and we have missed the Ballon d'Or a lot, of course, Karim Benzema. But has this been the root of their problems, Rodri?
I don't know if that's the problem of the problems, but I think it's the key problem, because when you're talking about Benzema, you're talking about a guy that is the silent leader of this locker room, first of all, and secondly is the guy that on the pitch is the guy that creates that goal chances, and is the guy who combines perfectly with Toni Kroos and with Modric, and the guy who is teaching Vinicius and Rodrigo how to play better. I mean, we're not talking only about a guy who is the striker and the best striker in the world with Lewandowski, for sure, and Mbappe. We're talking about a guy who is a number 9 who plays as a 10. To understand ourselves, and I think that kind of player is unique in the world, and even is unique in Real Madrid, because Ancelotti doesn't really have a replacement for Benzema, because he tried a lot of times to put Rodrigo as a false number 9, but Rodrigo, he can play maybe in a 4-4-2 as a second striker. He can play on the wing, but he's not Benzema, and he will never be Benzema. He will be Rodrigo Goes, but never Benzema, because Benzema is someone unique on football history. So that's why they missed the French guy a lot. And I think that once he move on from that muscular fatigue that he's been struggling of in these past 2 weeks, I think he will be back in force, and he will be back as stronger than ever right after World Cup. But now in these 2-3 weeks, they've missed him a lot.
Yeah, and it's really complicated mentally to be able to split your time between what your club needs and what your national team needs now, right around the corner, thinking of those fitness situations. So it's worked out for Barcelona, at least in the last few weeks too. They now take the leadership, and they'll go into this World Cup pause now, being leaders, and they'll come back this way. Gemma, how has Barcelona managed to get to this point when it seemed like they had a couple of weeks that were really bad?
Yeah, well, they have done it very well, because they go to the World Cup being leaders, and they will be leaders when they come back. And this is something that we were not really expecting when they were defeated in El Clásico, and they had that huge disappointment of the elimination from the Champions League. But they put themselves together. It's true that there was a bit of lack in that leadership, because they managed to get 3 points in Mestalla at the very last second, and the comeback in El Sadar was impressive, with one man down, without Lewandowski. That's why there was so much euphoria in the locker room. Some people have criticized that. Why are you celebrating? You haven't won anything. Well, yeah, this is a young locker room with not so many wins in their backs, and they managed to come back against Osasuna, and they are happy, and they want to celebrate it. And it's the last game before long period of World Cup or holidays, everyone going to a different destination. So there is a feeling of satisfaction in Barcelona for the leadership that gives Xavi and his staff more pause, more calm to prepare the comeback from the World Cup, and they feel they have improved in the last couple of weeks, and mentally they prove to be strong, because winning points at the very last seconds is not only a thing about luck, it's also about mental strong being strong to fight until the very last second.
Yeah, absolutely. And any little victory is a huge victory for Barcelona, especially after what they went through with Europe, as you mentioned, Gemma. So, Rodri, how can Xavi stay in control of his Xavineta, of his buzz now, thinking of the World Cup pause?
He has to drive a little bit more careful for me, because if not, maybe some players will get injured again. I mean, we remember, Chris, when we were talking about Barca, about the lack of luck that Barca had 1 month ago with those injuries that they were suffering of. And if Xavi wants to keep on driving Xavineta, he has to be a little bit more careful. And the players, they have to be more careful in the World Cup, because if not, I think it's a great test for this squad to see how those players, those international players, they come back after Qatar 2022, because we are talking about a really young players like Gavi, like Pedri, like Eric Garcia, like Dembele, and I don't really know how are they gonna be fitting in the World Cup, and I don't really know how will they come back to Barcelona physicality. I don't really know. It's something that really it's kind of strange for me, because it's like something new for these players, not only for the rest of the players that are gonna be competing at the World Cup in the middle of this season, but all for Barca players something new, because most of them is the first World Cup ever for them. So I don't know what they are going to expect, and let's see what happens if, for example, Pedri repeats what he was through, I think it was like 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, when he was playing Euro with Luis Enrique, and then he went to Japan to play for the Olympics, and he was tired as hell. So maybe they can happen something similar, or maybe not. Let's see, because I think it's a good test for Xavi.
Yeah, it'll be so interesting. And apparently 2022 is the year of trying new things, of course, starting with the World Cup for the first time in November. It's weird, it's cold outside, but we have a World Cup around the corner. It certainly won't be cold as we expect in Qatar. Gemma, Rodri, let's get to some insider information too, because Barcelona got the win, but we know someone saw red, and that was Robert Lewandowski. But Gemma, ahead of course, what the World Cup means to Lewandowski, how's he feeling?
He's feeling happy. He felt relieved when he was inside the dressing room in El Sadar and saw on TV with Gerard Piqué how his teammates managed to come back from that 1-0 against Osasuna, and he felt really, really relieved. We were able to speak to him when he was receiving the golden shoe, and he was really happy, relieved. He explained us that he feels really happy here in Barcelona, that he has done the correct choice. It's true that it was a huge disappointment getting out of the Champions League, but he told me quite interesting things. I must say I'm very impressed about his Spanish. He's able to speak. He's not talking that much in media, but he publicly spoke in that ceremony, and he did quite well, even though I can tell he was nervous. But it's only 4 months. It's impressive. He's from Poland, and he's able to speak Spanish pretty well. So he said that he thinks for Barcelona, it's true that it's a lot of players going with Spain, Barcelona players. It's 7. That's a lot. If Spain goes well, Barcelona might be affected. But he's sure that for these young players, these Pedri, Gavi, we didn't know that back then, but now Ansu Fati or Eric Garcia, it's going to give them a maturity addition that can be better than the tired that they will be when they come back. And about the Spanish speaking, he said, of course, it helped him a lot those summers in Mallorca. He has a house there and he loves it there. And he feels happy. And for him, it was important to go to be able to finish the season. It was a huge disappointment seeing that red card. He explained us that gesture was it meant to be for Xavi. There was a confusion, and he explained us that he thinks he learned from that mistake, and he will take it into account for this never happen again in playing in La Liga.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear that from him as well. And practicing your Spanish, although I would happily learn another language for such a beautiful place like Mallorca as well, and Barcelona too. But, let's switch over, Rodri, now to you, because someone who isn't very happy is Madrid with a certain player from another team.
Well, lots of players from some other teams. The thing is that Real Madrid are fed up with the way rivals are treating Vinicius. They understand that Vinicius now is the guy to watch. He's a one-to-watch player. So that's why all the rivals try to hurt the Brazilian player. They are worried about that because they understand that this is not only about 1, 2, 3 games. This is about something that has been happening in La Liga for maybe 1 year ago till now. So that's why they're, first of all, they're angry at that kind of rivals, and they are fed up with the way those rivals are treating Vinicius. And also, to sum up this, in Real Madrid, they understand that there is a lack of protection to these kind of players. They understand that these good players are like the image of La Liga internationally, and they need a little bit more protection. They need a little bit more of understanding. So that's why they understand that no one protects them. And we're talking about the same debate that maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago we had here in La Liga with Messi. Now is the same with Vinicius, but in another club like Real Madrid. So let's see what happens in the future. We remember that after Cádiz game last night, Vinicius posted on Twitter like, "Thank God I'm not injured one game more." So let's see what happens in the future. But now there is kind of a worrying in Real Madrid and in Vinicius' storage, because they understand that he needs a little bit more protection from the right.
And hear me out here. I feel like the more attention that a team pays to a certain player, I feel like it's a compliment too, because of how tough it is to defend someone like Vinicius Jr. So there is a silver lining to this whole thing, and Madrid making a specific plan to protect him. Of course, that's such an interesting and important approach that they're taking to the youngster. Gemma, back to you. I was asking Rodri how Xavi can still stay in control of the team, of the mood, of the results during the World Cup. But what's his plan specifically with Barcelona?
Well, most of the players are international. It's 16 of them. It's a world record for Barcelona, because the top internationals they had, it was in Russia. They were 14, so it's 2 more. So it's a lot of diaspora. It's going to be difficult for Xavi. Only 7 players staying here, and of these, 4 lucky ones, Iñaki Peña, Bellerín, Balde, and Marcos Alonso, they will be enjoying a 25-day holidays, which is pretty good. Actually, I must say, Héctor Bellerín has already started holidays, and he was having lunch earlier today with another possible international that didn't happen, like Borja Iglesias, because there is 2 more non-internationals that are injured. Sergio Roberto and Kessie will continue their physicality to come back to fitness, and Pablo Torre will play with Barça Athletic. The plans for Xavi is to take care of these players here, of course, work on the trainings. And about Qatar, Xavi will be going to Qatar. He lived there, he played there, he has many friends, connections, and he will work as well there. Barcelona will be having observers in the World Cup to try to find possible signings. And what Barcelona staff will be doing as well, we've been told this month and a half, they will try to work aspects that they think they need to improve. One of them is the corners, the free kicks, and these kind of situations where they think they have failed to give to the team, because they have tall players like Lewandowski, Araujo, and maybe they can take more profit of this kind of action. So they will be trying to work on that aspect, also in playing against close teams, the ones that park the bus in the area, and they will be working on that aspects during this month and a half.
Let's hope they have enough staff to keep track of so many different players in so many different places too, whether it's on vacation, whether it's participating in the World Cup. But again, maybe it's a good problem to have, Barcelona, with so many of their players being called up for their national squad. Of course, for such an important tournament. Rodri, back to you and back to the situation that's surrounding Real Madrid. You already mentioned Vinicius Jr. Is Cadiz, what is their approach now with the Brazilian?
Well, they are angry at the Brazilian. You know, we're back at the last night game at Santiago Bernabeu, and I was, to be honest, I didn't remember in these maybe 3 years or 4 that I've been on ESPN a guy in front of the microphone saying, well, Fali said to us on ESPN, because we were after the game in the flash interview position that we have in every game, and when he came, we have to keep in mind that before coming to our position, he has to go first of all to Spanish television positions. He wouldn't say anything about Vinicius or about the way the Real Madrid players treated them, but when he came to my position, he was like, okay, now I'm unleashed, and I'm going to say what I really think and what really happened, at least from my opinion, on the pitch. And he said to us that Real Madrid players were really, really, really disrespectful to Cadiz and to Cadiz players, saying that Vinicius, if he wants more respect, he has to respect some other players, not only from Cadiz but from the rest of the tournament. He said that Vinicius told them that Cadiz is a second division club. And he was so angry at Vinicius, like, my God. And I was like, man, I was going to ask you about Rodrigo Goes, but keep on talking about Vinicius, because I was, completely out of my mind listening to Fali. We remember that Fali used to play at Barcelona in the reserve team. I don't know if he has something against Real Madrid or really happened that what he said on ESPN cameras, but it was really hard to Vinicius and really hard to Rodrigo, because both of them, Rodrigo and Fali, were the main characters of the main play of the first game when he could have been sent off because he hit Rodrigo. Even Rodrigo told us that it was a shame that he was keep on playing and he didn't show any kind of red card. So that's why, it was a kind of, entertainment after the game. It was even better than the game.
I can imagine you holding the microphone and trying so hard not to smile too, like, this is good stuff. Yeah.
I was like,
you guys know when you have that moment and you're like, okay, this quote is going to be my headline, and you absolutely know that that's going to be the main thing in your article, in what you're going to say in your report. Your microphone wasn't hot, it was on fire. Rodri. All right, Gemma, let's go back to someone that Barcelona doesn't necessarily have to keep track of anymore. Piqué is enjoying his time off, it seems.
Yeah, now it's official. Since Wednesday, he's no longer a Barcelona player. He did the last service being sent off in El Sadar against his non-friend referee Gil Manzano, and then he took a picture with all the trophies he has won. Now he's a free agent, can talk it like this, and he will be living in 3 separate goals. We can say that's why we call him Globetrotter. His main goal right now is to move to Andorra, this little country in the Pyrenees, because he wants to have the promotion of the team he's a president, the Andorra. So he's planning to move there. He's also looking for a more peaceful life, some peace that he cannot find in Barcelona right now because of his personal life. And might be another aspect, Cristina, is that when you live in Andorra, you pay way less taxes than any other country in Europe, and of course Spain. So if he will be staying there a lot of time, then he will be living as well 10 days per month in Miami, because the plan is that his kids are going to be there. But he won't forget about Barcelona, because he still has a plan to be president one day of FC Barcelona, but that's not something it will be happening in the next few years. So it's like a mid-long term prospect that Gerard Piqué has right now.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I mean, taking a pause right now, focusing on himself, on his personal life, which we know, of course, hasn't really helped his status at the moment and led him maybe to what happened even last week. But that's a different conversation. So good for him. He's doing some traveling, maybe some free time that he didn't have even a week ago. Rodri, speaking of futures, not only with what we expect from Gerard Piqué, but what do you know about Luis Enriquez's future?
Yeah, we have to talk about Spain national coach because this morning he announced the list for Qatar 2022, and in that press conference after giving the list, he said that it's not the time to talk about his future. We have to remember that by the end of this World Cup, he's gonna be over with Spain. He hasn't renewed his contract, so he has to. I mean, he's free to negotiate to any plan he wants to do. Maybe he get the table surf and go to Australia to get some surfing, as he said was he did when he retired from football, or he came back to Asturias or whatever. But the thing is that I was told by a couple of sources that his intention is to be Spain national coach till the end of the season, which is when Spain is playing that Nations League final. He wants to close that circle by the end of the season. I think it's in June when Spain is going to play that Nations League final against 3 other teams, and he wants to close that circle. So at that time, his intention, Luis Enrique's intentions, is to keep on being that Spain national coach till the end of this season, and from then let's see what happens. But he wants to end the season as a Spain national coach.
Yeah, and he wants to maybe end in the next few weeks as a World Cup champion, but that is still yet to see. We're going to stick with Luis Enrique and with the Spanish national team because, as you said, Rodri, of course, he unveiled now who he's actually going to take. So let's stick with extra time. I want to know what you guys think. Gemma, is there someone who you would have liked to have seen, maybe change something up? What do you think?
I really like Spain's national squad. I think it's a team that has a lot of personality, and Luis Enrique, I think, is the main actor of that squad. So I think it's fair that he picks whoever he decides. But I think we're missing a little bit of experience and goals. So I would have taken Sergio Ramos because I have been able to watch him playing all Champions League games, and he's enjoying a momentum, and he's a player with so much experience. And about goal, I picked Iago Aspas, could be as well Borja Iglesias, because he was the top Spanish scorer of last season and is a player that I really like. And maybe I would have taken Balde, because Alejandro Balde is the player who has impressed me the most this season, the player I didn't know that well, and I think he has grown a lot. I can understand that there are players that maybe Luis Enrique trusts them more, but I think Balde is impressive. He's so fast, so brave, and he can play in both fullbacks. So I think it would have been a good asset to bring. But I pretty much like it, the election of Luis Enrique.
Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 changes, as you said, or even maybe a few more. Iago Aspas and Borja Iglesias, that would have been interesting too. They're 2 players that really don't know how to score an ugly goal, if that makes sense to anybody. You guys know what I mean. Rodri, what about you?
Well, I agree with Luis Enrique, and I'm in love with Luis Enrique as a coach because I think he's the best one after Guardiola in the world. But I will give him some advices since we are from the same hometown and we support the same team, Sporting de Gijón. I'm gonna say to Luis Enrique, I would add, for example, as a goalkeeper, I would add Kepa because I think he deserves a lot, and he has been, tough through a lot of tough times, but now he's back at his peak form, and for me, Kepa, he has to be on the list. I would say that Sergio Ramos has to be on the list, whatever the people says, he has to be on the list because of his character, personality, experience, and the thing is that his performances on PSG, Gemma has just said that, have been outstanding, so he has to be there. And as attacker, I think that you only have 1-9. You only have Morata as a striker. So, I am missing Borja Iglesias because now the way he's playing, the way he's scoring, he's the top scorer of LaLiga of Spanish strikers. I think he deserves to be up there. So, I don't know. Luis Enrique, I'm not going to give you, Luis Enrique, if you're watching this 10 out of 10, I'm going to give you only 9.75 out of 10.
Okay, and that's because we're getting really, really picky at the moment, but I completely agree with both of you because Borja Iglesias is explosive, he's confident, and like I said, he really doesn't know how to score an ugly goal. But to wrap things up, how do you guys think Spain's going to do in the World Cup, Gemma?
Okay, I'm gonna be an optimistic.
No pressure.
Final. I'm not gonna say if they win or they don't, but they will reach the final.
Okay.
Actually, there is a chapter of The Simpsons that predicts what's going to happen, and it's Brazil, Spain in the final, and then Brazil wins the title. We'll see.
Hey, the Simpsons, they've got it right so many times. So I totally support that you're backing your theory with the Simpsons. Rodri, what do you think?
I'm gonna be even more optimistic because I believe that everyone is saying that no, the main favorite of this World Cup is France, Brazil, Argentina, Belgium. Okay, Spain will be the World Cup winners.
Wow, finalists and World Cup champions. We'll have to see who's right. For now, I just have to wish you guys, not even luck, because luck you don't need. Have a great time in the World Cup. I'm going to miss you guys a lot, but we'll be back here in December when it's still chilly out. But I really wish you guys the best coverage. For now, you guys can follow Gemma and Rodri. That'll, of course, be covering the World Cup and much more because they have the best insider information. And when La Liga returns, you can, of course, enjoy all of those matches on ESPN+. Gemma, Rodri, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Adios.
We're gonna cry. See you, Chris.